All right, welcome to the Erie Music History Podcast. I'm Chip Shell, your host, and today my guest is a man of multiple names. He's been a bluesbeater, a famous clown, a debeltone, a rummager. You've been in lots of different memorable bands, probably some that are forgettable. Yes. Yeah. Welcome to the podcast, Kevin Bensink, a.k.a. Antoine Jack.
Yeah, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you. You and I have talked about this for a long time since I started the podcast. Having you on, and I know we have a lot to cover, but let me start right away with your moniker of Antoine Jack, because I don't know the history. How did you come up with that?
Well, when the Bluesbeaters first got together, it was in 1991, February 26th, in fact.
Okay.
That was the very first time we got together.
Wow.
It was also my future father-in-law's birthday. His name is Jack.
Okay.
It was also Fats Domino's birthday, and his real name is Antoine.
Oh. And
we're all out at rehearsal. And he said, "Yeah, man, we can need some blues names and stuff." And I said, "Yeah, I'm going to go with Antoine Jack." And it was like, wow, that actually has a pretty good ring.
Yeah.
You know?
So you had it all already.
Well, it happened at the rehearsal.
Yeah.
Just like that. But, and, I like it. It suits me. It fits me. And a lot more people know me that way.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. It's I'm all the same guy.
Yeah.
Unless you're paying me.
Right.
And then I'm Antoine.
We are very similar in that respect. Chip is not a real name,
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah. When I get a check written out to Chip Shell, I have to say, "Hey, man, the bank doesn't know who that is."
Yeah. Right.
But yeah, there's a lot we're going to cover today. You're one of those guys that knows a ton about the history of Erie music, especially your eras, 60s, 70s, 80s. Yeah. You're still playing way more than I do now. You're a Corey guy, we just established, right?
Yeah, grew up there.
Went to Corey High School?
Went to Corey High School, graduated, 71, 30 seconds later, I moved to Erie.
Is that what happened?
Oh, just about. It was, I was on my way to the big city.
You had 3 other brothers. Were any of them musical too?
No.
And so Bo was the only one that was even involved in music.
Right.
Just he did lights and sound
Brody,
and stuff.
And he was good at that.
Right. And so you come to Erie to, back it up. So are you playing music in high school?
In high school I did. Junior high and high school, yeah.
Oh.
I had a few bands.
Bass?
No.
What were you doing?
I started actually on combo organ.
I was going to say, don't tell me accordion. Everybody says accordion.
No. Head keys, though.
Okay.
No. When I was 13 years old, I went to see a band play at the YMCA in Corey. It was the Ravens.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That was Tim and Phil,
right.
And Pete Peterson was playing drums.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely hypnotized. I just watched and I just said, that's what I want to do.
Wow.
And I was watching Tim and I've told him this story too. And he's like, well, it's fun.
Yeah.
But I went home and I convinced my mother that, we had to go buy a combo organ. And after a while, of getting tired of hearing me, we drove to Erie, went to Dick Bulling's House of Music on West 26th Street.
Right.
Went in there, got a brand new Vox Jaguar and a Vox Buckingham amp.
Okay.
Took it home, took it up to my room, closed the door, started practicing.
Okay.
Just picking out songs.
Yeah.
I had a friend, his father had a music store in Corey, Gage Music it was called.
All right.
And I used to go in there to buy guitar strings and things like that. And he had a little gizmo. It was called a chord slide rule for piano. Had little windows in it, like a cardboard sleeve, and you could move a keyboard back and forth, and it had arrows that would line up the notes for the chords.
Right.
It had every chord anybody would ever need for anything, and it showed you all the inversions, so you can move one finger. That's a brand new chord. Look at that.
Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I started with that, learning chords, listening to records, picking out parts.
No formal lessons.
No.
Okay. Yeah.
I started on oboe in 5th grade, but I couldn't read.
Okay.
Couldn't sight read and play. And
right.
It was like, so.
What's a combo organ?
That's like, like a farfisa.
It's just like a farfisa.
Yeah. Or a Vox.
Like a smaller. Yeah. Right.
Well, it's combo because you play in a little combo,
Okay.
3 or 4 guys.
Gotcha. I didn't know what the combo part meant.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right. So you were a keyboard player.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so.
And then had a band, learned some cool stuff, mostly, top 40 stuff at the time.
Junior high.
Yeah. Light My Fire, Simon Says, Dance to the Music, Bend Me, Shape Me, all that
cool
60s stuff.
Yeah.
Then a little while it was going on, we had a guitar player, and he just wasn't very good.
Okay.
And I said to myself, this can't be that hard. So I bought a guitar.
What was the band, first of all?
That band was called the Rainbow Release.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Very, very psychedelic.
Psychedelic.
Yeah. All right.
And so then I had a guitar, and I learned that. And that's when I discovered Grand Funk and all those guys like that. Cream, Grand Funk, Blue Cheer.
So we're late 60s?
Late 60s, yeah.
Okay.
60s,
and do you
70s.
remember all the guys?
In the band? Yeah. Mark Bloom was the drummer.
Okay.
And he's since passed. John Downey, who was the bishop in Erie here.
Yeah.
He was the bass player.
All right.
Yeah. Rick Morgan played guitar.
Rick Morgan. Yeah.
He passed.
I used to work here with him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, he was.
And there was a bunch of other people.
Okay.
You know, but
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago, yeah. And then we moved, and then after that band, we did another thing. Finally ended up with my favorite band in high school was a trio called Lawnmower. And it was just me and John and Mark.
Okay, all right.
And that's when we really dove into Grand Funk and all that stuff.
And you're playing what? Guitar?
Guitar.
At this time.
And combo organ.
Okay.
Because we did Traffic and stuff like that, too. So
Wow.
I had both, you know.
Okay.
It was cool. Played tons of high school dances.
That's what I was going to say. In Corey, is it just high school dances? You didn't have like a YCO there,
Well, we had,
right?
yeah, we had YMCA.
Did you?
Yeah,
Okay.
Never called it YCO. That was an
Oh, you
Erie thing.
didn't.
I had no idea what people were talking
Okay.
about YCO. It's like, wow, we played the YMCA, but that wasn't the YCO. You know? Yeah, so that was that.
Cool.
Parties. Yeah, played a lot of parties.
Right.
Made a lot of money playing in high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, what's a lot of money back then?
$50 a man a night.
Whoa.
And that was, back then, that was good money.
That's good today sometimes.
Yeah, I try not to take those
Remember
gigs,
that.
but sometimes you have to. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
so-
We both have
Yeah.
turned down some of those. I know, yeah. Wow, that's wild.
And then I moved to Erie, and then reality set in. I had to get a job.
Well, so you went right out of high school and moved to Erie.
Yeah.
But do you have a degree in art direction or art or anything?
No,
okay. All right. Gotcha. Because that's what you've done
Right.
for 40 some years.
Right.
Right.
So I moved, and I got a job at a vacuum forming plant out on Pittsburgh, or out on Peninsula Drive.
Okay.
A place called Munat Plastics.
All right.
Worked second and third shift. Almost got my fingers cut off, and it was treacherous.
Yeah.
But I toughed it out there for a few years, and then I got back into music. I had known Keith Pacheco all this time, and we were close. Even before I moved to Erie, when we'd come to Erie, we'd always go visit Keith down at Markham's when the store was on 11th and Peach.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
We'd go in there, so I knew him.
Just hang out with them.
Hang
and
out
talk.
with him, yeah.
Right.
Bought a guitar, bought some gear there and stuff like that.
He was younger, a little younger than you, or
Just 2 weeks younger than me.
oh, that's it.
Yeah,
Okay, all right.
yeah.
I figured you guys were about the same
Yeah,
age.
he
Yeah,
was 2 weeks younger.
yeah. Because a lot of folks did that. Went down there and hung out, and
And he had a band at the time called Anacrusis. That was Keith,
right.
Bobby Arlett, Paul Gall, Tom Stone played drums, and Chuck Leone played keyboard.
Yeah.
Hammond. I mean, he
Yeah,
was way beyond.
yeah.
He's like, wow, this guy's. And so I used to go see them, and I did a lot of artwork for them. That's kind of the same time when I started doing art for bands.
Oh.
Keith was real instrumental in that. I did, anytime anybody would go to his studio, they wanted to do a project, and said, "Do you need artwork?" Yeah, so he'd give me a call, and it kind of started going on. And so I did a lot of that. Did a lot of artwork for a lot of bands.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those.
And about 73, 74, we formed a band called Twang.
Right.
And that's when I started playing in Erie with bands.
And you designed that shirt too.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
twang shirt.
Yeah.
Those are cool. You should bring that back.
There's more of my stuff. I don't have a lot of my own stuff.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hey, if anybody's got my stuff and they want to get rid of it,
That's
I'll be
right.
happy to have it back. Because I'd have very little. I was digging through the archives trying to find stuff to bring you.
Well, at this point though, when you're in twang, you're the bass player.
No.
No?
Guitar player, and then by now, I had a Hammond organ.
So Ed's in the band. Ed Pouton's
Yeah.
in the band. It's Ed and Keith. And,
Keith was playing bass.
Oh, right. I've seen some pictures of that.
Right.
Is Gail singing at first or no? Gail
Yeah,
Sadler.
she was. Yeah, Gail Sadly, she was.
So
And then later, she left, and Bob Arlett and Durf came in.
right.
Yeah.
And Bud's in the band too.
Bud's in the band.
Pouton's
Yeah,
in
Bud
the band.
Pouton's playing drums. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so you guys at first, like with Gail, are a totally different band that evolved into when Durf was in the band. I know that. As far as
it didn't
outfits
evolve. It
as
mutated.
Well. It mutated.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize you were playing guitar and keys in that the whole time.
And by then I had a synthesizer, one of those kinds you build, the Paya synthesizer.
I was going to say.
Yeah, it's
by
crazy.
then, you were talking like 74, 75.
Yeah.
How big was that?
It was about 4 octaves. The keyboard was 4 octaves, and it had a bunch of modules and stuff.
Yeah.
It was horribly unreliable, but it was still fun.
Yeah.
It made a lot of good noises,
And you didn't have a Leslie or anything like that?
I did have a Leslie with the Hammond.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you had a lot of gear.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
And Ampeg amps to add to the weight.
The weight. I was going to say, no one wanted to help you carry your stuff.
Right.
Wow. So you guys are playing in New York. You're playing at Eagle Ridge. You're playing where else? Where the Garage, the Barn, Surfs Club.
Everyone,
lose in.
BGs lose in.
Yeah.
You lose in, lose out. Yeah.
Where was that? In New York?
No, it was in Ripley. Yeah, in Ripley. Yeah. Sorry.
Why? So many people have talked about playing those types of bars and those places. Were they just the hot?
They were like, I had a circuit. Plus, when we weren't playing there, all our favorite bands were playing there.
Which were who?
Oh man.
I mean, the Raven was still around. Mulkey Cole.
Raiders. The Raiders. No, they're from Corey, and I remember seeing them a few times, but they didn't play in Corey as much as they played everywhere else.
The Raiders.
Raiders, yeah.
That was Phil, right?
No.
Phil Potnick was.
No, that was.
He was in testing you.
Testing my memory here.
No, I know I've had someone on the podcast.
Gil Scouten played guitar. Bob Potnick played bass.
Maybe I've just heard of them.
Dave Lilly played drums. And Jerry, oh man, what was his last name? Played key and guitar. Yeah, they were something.
And Mulkey Cole was from Cleveland?
They're from Cleveland, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Paul Pope was in that band.
So many people talk about them in Erie, as loving them.
And then there was just so many bands that back then, New York. It was just crazy.
How was it at first when it was with Gail? Because you haven't played in a lot of bands with a female singer. I mean, at that point, this was really your first.
Well, I was kind of like we'd like you to, if you'd like to join our band, we'd like to ask you to join our band. And thank God Keith said, hey, we should get this guy.
Yeah.
Because that kind of got me in. Gail and Ed at the time were dating.
Right.
And so that was kind of a separate thing. I was just trying to make sure I could keep up with these guys because, they had been playing and all that stuff. But
and what type of stuff?
The band was good. We played a lot of Ed's originals.
Oh.
We played Frank Zappa. We played Kiki D. I mean, again, a lot of top 40 stuff. Kiki D, I Get the Music, and stuff like that.
Wow.
Elton John. Basically anything that was like a rockin' hit we played.
And then Frank Zappa.
And then Frank Zappa. Yeah.
Not a rocking hit, but crazy stuff.
But it rocked.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And we had a pretty good reputation. We had some great gimmicks. We had a cannon that fired confetti. We had the first confetti can.
Really?
Joel Miller ended up with that cannon.
Really?
Yeah.
All right.
People the bar owners hated us.
Oh.
It would just make a huge mess.
Yeah, right.
But it was a big gimmick, It was a lot of fun.
Was that a thing back then, having a gimmick?
Isn't it always?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
You do play in a band that everybody has fake names and everything.
They're not fake names.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, so, eventually, like you said, Gail moves on. Durf comes in. He's playing keys, right?
He is playing keys. That's right. Yeah.
Do you switch to, or you both play keys?
Oh, no, we both played keys.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. And you guys were doing
there
more
was
progressive stuff then, or?
Pretty much basically the same type of stuff.
Okay.
Rock, top 40 rock.
Right.
There wasn't too many gigs after Gail left. It was kind of a decline.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We played a handful.
And,
Durf.
a lot of those places that we talked about were in New York, like you said. So we're talking about 74 to about 76 Twang survives.
Yeah.
And what happens? Were you not playing in Erie as much? Was there a reason why, or just not as many places? People
grow apart. It just kind of grew
Sure.
apart. I think Ed might have been getting ready to leave then.
Oh, right.
I think, that might have had something to do with it.
I found one of the things I dig up, obviously, I always have these little tidbits, and I found in 1976, June of 96, you played the Lamplighter Ball for the Southwest Erie Lions Club, and you alternated sets with Vic Savelli's orchestra.
Wow, I remember that.
Do you? I mean, I would think I would remember that. That's weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah.
It was weird. We're so loud. You're so loud, you know.
I can't imagine the folks at the Lamplighter Ball were
Well, that
into
was-
Frank Zappa.
Yeah. We might not have played Frank that. I don't know.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. So does that transition then into Victory for you, or?
There was a little bit of downtime.
Okay.
Because when Ed left, we kind of everybody took a break. You know, it was kind of stressful. Like anything, when something breaks up, it's stressful.
Sure.
We kind of took a little bit of a break. And then one day I was talking to Keith at Markham's again. By now they were up on 26th Street.
Okay. Yeah.
And he said, "Hey, Victory is looking for a bass player because their bass player's leaving to go to school."
Oh, they were already formed.
Yeah, they had been playing out at Lord Bethwick in the West Erie Plaza.
Yeah.
Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, steady gig. You know?
Oh, okay.
I said, "Well, I don't have a bass. I don't play bass." And he reached around and grabbed a bass off the rack, and he said, "Here." He goes, "Take this and audition, and if you get the gig, I'll sell you the bass."
What was it?
It was a Gibson SB 350.
Okay.
It was a nice bass.
Yeah.
Short scale, which was good
Right.
for me at that time.
And you're replacing Bob Berger at this point?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Well, they were looking for a new bass player. You can't replace Bob Berger.
Yeah, right.
So-
I mean, but he had left.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so I auditioned. I got the gig.
So it's you and Tune, Jeff Clark,
And George Pushkar.
and George played guitar?
Yeah.
And your drummer is
Tune.
Tune.
Yeah,
Right. But Jeff was in the band, wasn't he? Jeff Berger for
Jeff
a while?
Berger, yeah.
Okay.
Didn't we say that?
No, we didn't. We just said Bob. So Jeff's playing keys.
Oh, yeah. Jeff's playing keys.
Okay. All right. And so that doesn't last real long.
You know, it lasted a couple of years, and then Jeff left.
Right.
Then we got Scott Kuhn in the band.
Oh, okay.
And then we went on another year or so like that. Then that kind of dissipated. I think after that I was in my band with Tony, Skylift.
Oh,
I think that was then. Yeah.
Okay.
Because after that is when I joined Just in Time.
what was Skylift? I missed that one.
It was a kind of a big band, had horns, big band, played a lot of disco music and dance music.
That was Tony Farrar.
Yeah.
We mentioned that probably on the podcast. I just don't remember all the names.
Right,
Okay.
sure.
Yeah. That
I'm trying to think who else was in the band. Oh man.
was it like a lounge type of thing, or?
Yeah, but it was pretty high energy. You know,
Yeah.
we didn't have uniforms, but you had to dress nice, which is I think you should always dress nice anyway.
Right.
We played up in Cleveland, and we played all over the place. You know.
Huh.
I can remember driving to Cleveland to play a gig, get done, drive home, get up in the morning, go to work, get home from work, sleep for 2 hours, drive to Cleveland. You know, because we played there like 5 nights a week.
Oh, you did. Okay. So wow, even back then it was still playing all the.
all the time. Yeah,
And you're playing bass with them.
I am.
So did you ever go back to keys or guitar? I mean, since then.
As a primary instrument.
Yeah.
No.
Interesting. All right.
You know.
Do you still dabble?
I dabble.
Yeah.
Well, in BB2, I play guitar once in a while.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, a couple tunes. We both play guitar.
That's
Yeah, I mean, I
interesting.
have keyboards.
Yeah.
I have stuff.
I didn't know that about you. You know, I've always considered you just a bass player.
Yeah, well,
My favorite bass player. Come on.
you know, everybody's going to hate you for that.
I know,
That's all
I
right.
know,
But
but
I appreciate it.
well, you played at Bethwick's, like you said, regularly
Yeah.
with Victory, and then just in time you slid that in there. So that's around 78.
70, around 77 was Skylift. 78, I would say, was just in time.
Right.
Then after a year, we changed drummers, got Joe Salarino in the band.
Yeah.
And then the band became Chaser.
Okay. So go ahead and take a drink if you need to there. So my book about the Erie County Fieldhouse, you and I talked about this even when I was writing it because you played there.
I did.
With Chaser, right?
Right.
And it was like right near the transition from Just in Time to Chaser.
I think it might have been one of the first gigs as Chaser.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
Because we needed a new name.
So was Maggie in the band? Maggie Flanagan in the
yeah.
band already? So
Yeah.
she was in Just in Time with you and Joe, and then Eric Johnson.
Yeah.
And
Well, Eric didn't play. He was the sound man.
oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought Eric played guitar.
Nope.
Never.
Not in that band.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So this is Eric Johnson, who played in Pistol Whip and all that
Yes.
stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
So then,
He and Maggie were in a band called Rockin' Horse at one time.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this for the record. I've said it before. Maggie, if you ever listen to any of these, I want to have you on the podcast, but I know that's a difficult ask.
I'll see what I can do.
All right. So Just in Time lasts for about a year or so, and then you transfer.
It lasted. Well, yeah, it changed to Chaser, just the name.
Why? Personnel?
Personnel.
Okay.
We'd gotten a new drummer, got Joey. Our material was changing a little more. We're getting into more progressive jazz rock, that kind of stuff, like Weather Report and that kind of stuff. And it was just time for a new name. That's all.
And so Maggie's the first female singer. Then Gail comes back,
Well, they were both at the same time.
Oh, they were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gail played piano.
Oh,
and sang.
All right.
Gail and Maggie sang and occasionally played guitar.
Right. Okay. How about Mike Goodwin's in the band?
Yeah.
All right. He's playing keys.
And sax.
And sax, right. And Joey's playing drums, and
Right.
you, okay, all right. And then Eric does come in and play guitar then?
No.
Never.
Bob Tome.
Bob Tome, that's right.
Yeah. And then that band lasted until about 81, and we got to know Tallis pretty good. And so we would go to Buffalo and do shows there, and they would come and we'd do shows with them here. And
So Tallis, if people don't know, is Billy Sheehan's band. Up in Buffalo, right?
They're absolutely the loudest band ever in the world. Their motto was "Blow your face off."
Really?
Yeah, and it was, and they did.
As a bass player, I mean, what was it like seeing Billy Sheehan at that level? Daunting.
Yeah, well, he was playing something I would never even consider playing,
Right.
or it would.
Lead bass.
Yeah, but he was fantastic. I mean,
Sure.
he just more energy than anything. It
Really?
was just unbelievable. Those
Yeah.
guys, yeah.
How was it? I mean, you were actually playing, you were opening for them
Yeah.
a few times, right?
I don't think anybody cared or noticed, to be honest with
Really?
you. Yeah, our last gig as Chaser was in Buffalo at a place called the Waterfront. We were warming up Tallis, and I can remember finishing our set and getting our gear and getting it down and going outside. And we go outside, and it's like literally the building just explodes when they start. We're out there. Even outside, it was the loudest thing you ever heard. It was, oh, my God. And that was it. Came back to Erie, and
that was the end of that band.
that's when Gail and Maggie moved to Florida.
Oh, so, together?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And that was the end of that band.
Let's go over a few places, though, that you played that I like to talk about old places, too. The Winery.
Yeah.
Which is an antique store now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was Molly B's or what?
No, Molly B's was downtown. It was MJ's.
MJ's.
Yeah,
I
right.
knew it started with an M. It's on 26th Street, right? How was that?
It was all right. It was kind of weird because when my mother, she lived in Erie for a while in the 40s.
Okay.
And when she lived in Erie, she lived in that building upstairs. She had an apartment in the winery.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was called Dino's or something. That was an Italian restaurant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's where she lived.
Wow.
So that was kind of weird.
Weird.
It was a nice room. I mean,
Stage?
small stage.
Yeah, right.
4-inch stage.
Yeah, right.
Bigger than a postage stamp, though, which is what most places had.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we were almost in residency there for a while. It was us, Easy, a couple other bands. If we weren't playing, they were playing.
Yeah.
Especially Easy. Easy, those guys were awesome.
Yeah. Mark Korzicki.
Yeah.
And Art and Entertainers Club. A&E Club.
A&E. Yeah, there's a good one.
After Hours Club, East 11th Street.
Yeah, that was kind of shaky down there. Our cars regularly got ransacked down there. And, that was an interesting night. One time we played there with Tallis, really bad snowstorm, really bad. And, nobody shows up. So at the end of the night, we go in to get paid. And I'm not going to mention any names, but, somebody didn't want to pay us, And it's like, well, then Tallis said, well, what about us? He goes, well, he doesn't want to pay anybody, And so he lets it be known that he's got a gun, you know? And then all three of those guys let him know that they had a gun.
had guns, too.
Yeah, they had guns, too. Guess who got paid? Everybody.
Yeah, got it. All right.
Everybody got paid that night.
All right.
So I was pretty scared, though.
I bet.
Honestly, it was like, wow.
That's an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, well, they're from the big city. They knew what they were doing,
One of the other places, one of your favorites, the old Hullabaloo, right?
Hullabaloo.
The Purple Pickle at the time.
Yeah, it was the alternative.
Was it the alternative then?
When we played there, yeah.
All right. And that was a big stage, right?
Real big stage.
Yeah.
That was a great stage.
Yeah. And you used to go there.
When I was in high school, go there all the time, every weekend.
Who'd you see?
Raspberries, James Gang, Glass Harp, Lincoln, a lot of local bands, Red, White, Blueberry. Oh, it's just so many.
Yeah. And for folks who don't know, that was at McClelland, like the
exactly where the intersection is now. That's right where the club was.
Right. Okay. Yeah, because I've always heard. I mean, you have a whole Facebook page dedicated to it. So then you end up with Tallis in Williamsville, New York. You guys are done in '81. I kind of lose track of things, and so how do the Amazon women from Saturn III fit into this story?
Well, you did do your research. Holy cow. Well, that was, when the band's getting near the end and things are kind of testy and, sometimes, I love women, but sometimes they and we can be demanding.
Indeed.
And it was just one of those nights, it was demanding. And it was like, we're the Amazon women from Mars,
It was a chaser night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it kind of stuck as a joke, an inside joke.
Did it stick as a actual band?
No.
No.
The girls did not like it.
I didn't think so.
No.
Yeah. That's why they moved, probably.
Probably.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah. And so as I've known you, you're sort of that guy that can play with anybody, and you've played with a ton of people. I mentioned the Bell Tones at the beginning. I mentioned the Famous Clowns. Those were all Rick's bands,
yeah,
right?
Right. Yeah.
And so do you start being that sort of nomad bass player? Or
what had happened with Keith at this time, in 78, 79, he was putting together Desperado,
eventually
which became ATV.
Right.
Well, so I would always go out. They were just a trio. There was two guitars, and Bob sang.
Right.
And then he had a little synthetic drum he played sometimes.
This is Bob Arlett, Pat Tallarico, and
Keith Pacheco. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
So I'd go out and sit in, and so I was sitting in after a while. And then after a while, they said, hey, why don't you just join the band?
Okay.
So I did.
Yeah.
And kind of went from there. And then Pat left.
Right.
And then now what are we going to do? Somewhere along there, we went with drums and,
Tim Conway or Kevin Olson?
Kevin Olson first. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, Kevin Olson, then Tim Conway.
All right.
But and then Pat left and Bob Tome joined the band.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right. So ATV and goes through all these different incarnations.
Yeah.
Are you just playing for them, or do you dabble in these other bands too?
I should have brought my timeline.
That's all right. No.
I'm pretty sure that was pretty exclusive.
Right.
ATV at that time.
And Maggie comes back for a while and plays with you.
Yeah,
guys.
like in '84.
Yeah.
Yeah, she played a few gigs with us. It was fun. It was a terrific band.
Yeah.
Changed drummer. Steve McConnell played drums then.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We had George Suzuta was in there in the meantime too.
Okay.
So it was
great drummers.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And so then what happens after that? How does ATV even, does it when Pat leaves, or no, Pat was already gone?
Pat was gone.
Why did it end?
Keith was working a lot with Friction at that time. And they were trying to move their career up a notch, and he had a lot of the stuff they needed. So, he said, hey, I'm going to...
He joined Friction at that point.
Yeah, right.
When you talk about working with them, he was working with them on sound at first.
And in the studio and stuff like that. It was all kind of tied together,
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
And so that kind of went away. And then when that happened, then Eric Johnson and Kevin Olson and I formed the Rummagers.
Yeah.
And we did some recording with Keith. Again, Keith's never out of the picture.
That's right. I was going to say.
Never out of the picture.
And we should point out the band that you were in is the name of his studio, Twang.
Yeah.
Originally, right?
Yeah, right.
And so the Rummagers, you guys record a Christmas song.
Yeah.
Or an album?
Just a song.
Just a song that's played on the radio.
Big hit.
Yeah.
Yeah. A
That's
big hit.
awesome. Yeah.
Not just Erie, everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. So
was this your first? I mean, you said you played a little originals with Ed's stuff, but were there originals throughout all those bands, or?
Only a couple.
Okay.
Because the reality is people want to hear songs they know.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
So,
Yeah. So, but you write for the Rummagers.
yeah.
Okay.
We all did.
Okay.
We all did, you know. So I'd write the lyrics, and we'd all write the music, or, you know, it just depended.
And was it the plan to, how long did you play together?
We never played out.
Okay, that's what I
We
wondered.
never played out. It was just a studio project. I think it was about a year and a half or 2 years.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I joined the Dogs.
That's right. Right. Yeah. Okay.
That was-
and so the Dogs are at the height of things.
Yeah, yeah.
So, who did you fill in for then?
Bill Nicholas.
Bill Nicholas.
Yeah.
Okay.
He was the bass player. Jack was playing drums.
Okay. All right. And this was before Beat the Dog.
Right.
This was actually the Dogs.
Right. It was the
Right.
Dogs.
Okay. All right. Because Beat the Dog is sort of a conglomeration.
Well, Beat the Dog was 2 parts Beat the Clock and 2 parts
That's
the Dogs.
Okay. So we skipped
and
Beat
Otis.
the Clock. And Otis comes
Yeah,
in too.
right.
So we're kind of leading up to the Bluesbeaters at
Exactly,
this point.
exactly.
So Beat the Clock. So when we talk about original music that
was
you
all
have
original,
played,
yeah.
this is the first band you play in that's all original.
Pretty
right?
much. I mean, we did some covers, but they were, everybody
Crazy
thought
covers.
we wrote them.
Yeah, right.
That's cool. You know.
So go back for 1 second
Yeah.
at the Rummagers. So you record the Christmas song, A Christmas Present, or Christmas Present, right?
Yeah.
And when you say that it was successful, you're kind of, being flip, but it was. It was played in all sorts of cities everywhere.
Everywhere.
Still is.
Yes.
Still is.
Uh-huh.
Did you press a 45?
No, it was a cassette release.
Oh, really?
We did 100 cassettes.
Okay.
And that was it. And I have one.
And what did you do? Mail them out to all these places? How did
For
you get
those, yeah, but those weren't the ones. That was different. We just mailed those out, but then we actually made 100 cassettes that we sold.
Okay, all right.
And they had them up at like National Record Mart
Sure,
and places
right.
like that. And yeah, I mean, it was a freak.
Yeah,
there was
that's why I
no
wondered-
reason it should have happened at all.
That's what I was going to say. Why?
Timing, I guess.
You didn't have a manager
Nope.
pushing it or anything?
Nothing. Just
That's
wrote
crazy.
a nice cover letter. All our stationery had the logo. I mean, we had logos and everything. Everything.
Yeah.
I always had a good logo.
Yeah, right.
And sent a package, program director,
And just lucked
and
into it.
everybody played it.
Where?
Started in Erie.
Okay.
Jim Griffey had a show on K104 or
right.
whatever it was at that time. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was called the test pressing.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
We'd play a song, and then people would phone in and say, do you keep it or do you get rid of it?
Oh, right. I
That's a
remember
lot
this.
of original stuff. Like it just boom. That was the end. But everybody loved it.
Yeah.
And then they put it in rotation for Christmas. And then I'm in Cleveland about a week later and listening to WMMS. Here's one by the Rummagers. I'm like, are you kidding me? Then my brother says, hey, they're playing it in New York. And then Bob Tome at that time was down in Florida. And he goes, yeah, they're playing it in St. Petersburg,
Oh,
Tampa.
my gosh.
It was everywhere. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was cool.
What was the impetus for the name? The Rummagers.
Rummagers?
Yeah.
I just think that's one of the best names for a band I ever heard.
It is a cool
name.
name.
It's very descriptive.
Yeah.
It's the Rummagers.
So-
we rummaged, we dug around, and this is what we came up with.
So it was just three of you?
Yeah.
Okay. You, Eric, and Kevin.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it. All right. And then you used this giant chorus of other local musicians.
A lot of people. Yeah.
Who were some of those folks? The auxiliary chorus.
Monica Lewis, the
Monica
first time I
Lewis.
ever met her.
Was it? Oh, so I was going to
at the
ask
Keith
you.
Studio, yeah. And Keith sang, Marty Lee.
Marty Lee sang.
Rick Scantlebury at
Oh,
the
yeah.
time. We had 4 voices from the Erie Philharmonic Chorus because my roommate at the time was singing with them.
Okay.
Frank Zielinski was his name. Victor Babashko was another friend that sang in the Philharmonic. Marty Coe.
Marty
The
Coe
Friction
sang.
guys.
Yeah, right.
All the Friction guys were there.
That's crazy.
It was awesome.
So today, if someone wants to listen to that, at least during Christmas, they could probably request it. Someone has it
Yeah.
digital.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
originally everything was just on,
Cassette.
yeah. Do you have the original masters now that were at TRS, or
I think they're over at Durf's
they're
right
probably
now.
in Durf's
I think they're in
basement
Durf's
still.
basement.
Yeah, I'm sure they
I'll
are.
have to go get them.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so that leads us to Beat the Clock. So you decide, do you decide? How do you decide?
Well-
I want to start playing originals.
Well, John Drum,
Right.
who I met when I was 14 years old, 15. He was 14. Because he had a band, Kelly's Cellar.
Oh, yeah.
They used to play down in Corey.
Oh, okay.
So they'd come to Corey. So I met him, got to know him, and stayed in touch.
He was that young in Kelly's Cellar.
Yeah.
Wow.
14.
And Paula was in that band too originally.
Much later.
Much later. Yeah. Right.
Near the end,
Yeah.
actually. So, he was a good friend. Whenever he was, he moved to Boston in the mid-70s, early 73, 74.
Okay.
But whenever he was coming home, he'd always call me, a lot of times he'd stay with me or whatever, and we'd get together and we'd have fun, and I'd drive him to Buffalo and put him on a plane.
Right.
And he was moving back to Erie. And he said, hey, we should do something. I said, yeah, we should. So that's how we put it together. So he had, tons of songs, originals already.
Right.
So, we started with that, and then we started writing some stuff, and I had some stuff, and Joe Salarino had some stuff.
Okay.
And everybody had some stuff, and we all brought it in, and it was fun.
You played for how long? A couple years?
Yeah, a couple years.
All originals, except
pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
A few tasty covers. We even did a country gig once out at Rainbow Gardens. They was having some country fest, so we learned a whole bunch of country rock tunes. We changed our name to Martial Law.
Wow.
Like Marshall was
Martial
Law. We went up and we played a set because we were trying to get into the Best Western at the time because that was a hot room.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of the country rock stuff that was pretty good. We go and we do our set, and it went over really well. And, Dennis Cohen was promoting this show.
Yeah.
So after we get all done, he says, hey, come here. Here's somebody I want you to meet. I don't remember the guy's name, but he was the manager at the Best Western. Tall guy, cowboy hat.
Gotcha.
Toothpick. And I said, hey, it's nice to meet you. And Dennis goes, hey, this is Kevin, and nice to meet you. And I said, yeah, listen, I'd like to play your room. And I really hear good things about it. And he looked at me, he took the toothpick out of his mouth, and he said, you ain't no country band. You're a goddamn rock band.
And that was the end.
And that was the end of that. Yeah. Then we played a few more gigs. After that, and I'm trying to think now of the timeline. Now we're talking about 80.
88?
88,
Yeah.
89.
Right.
90. There was a few fill-in things here and there. And then one day, Jack Bernard called me. He said, hey, Eric and I are putting a band together. You wanna come down and, join?
Right.
I said, who's in charge? He said, you are.
I
said, okay.
And so for those who don't know, Jack Bernard was the drummer in the Dogs.
Yeah.
Eric had played also?
He played he wasn't a full-time member, but once in a while he'd sit in. But,
okay.
And he'd always been around,
Sure, right.
Because Eric and Jack played together in the Living Dead band years before.
Way back then.
Yeah. You got to get those guys in.
Yeah, for sure. I would like that. Yeah. But then Sam gets involved somehow, right? Sam Hyman?
Sam, it was friends with Jack.
Okay.
And so it kind of all came together, and that's when I said, hey, it's a blues band. I know a harmonica player because I'd been working with the Crawlers. I forgot about them.
Oh, yeah.
That was Ed Bernick and Marty.
Yeah.
I was playing keys with them.
Okay.
Jeez.
So Ed Bernick's an artist in town. And Marty Lee?
Yeah.
Oh, that was way back then.
Well,
okay.
And Otis, you see, back then, and this is where all the art overlaps, because Otis owned a advertising agency and Marty Benzer.
Yeah.
Cooking company before that.
Right.
And then Marty worked for him. And then Marty was working at Lakeshore with me. And, so it was like
everybody knew everybody.
Everybody knew everybody. And that's how I met Ed.
Okay.
And then, we just hit it off. And we've just been friends ever since.
And Otis, Jim, is another one of those guys that probably a lot of people don't even know his real name,
As far as I'm concerned, his real name is Otis James.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't know if the bank feels that way, but
I don't know. He may have changed it by now.
Yeah, right. He's been that for so long. So where do those other bands fit in that I mentioned? The DeBell Tones?
That was like
82?
Around... No. Let me think. Probably right around 80, 86, 87. Really? Yeah, in there.
And that was a rotating cast of different people.
Pretty much, yeah.
Mike Russo.
Gary Maud.
How do you say his full name?
Maud Zaleski.
Maud Zaleski on drums. Keith played with them.
Yes.
Obviously, Rick was on vocals, guitar.
Right. Mike Russo played keys.
Oh, Mike Russo, that's right. Played in Hit and Run, right?
Yeah. Yeah, with Eric.
Oh, with Eric. Okay.
Interesting enough, the only time that the song Christmas Present was ever played live was when the Belltones played at Sherlock's. We played it once.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the DeBelltones was. What type of music? Was it
Cartoon rock.
cartoon rock? Which is what?
It was all original stuff.
Oh, it was?
All of Rick's original stuff.
Okay,
It was
all right.
great.
Yeah.
It was,
I was just saying.
definitely cartoon rock.
It had to be
It
fun.
was, but we did some covers. We did like MacArthur Park.
Whoa.
Yeah, the big production of MacArthur Park. Yeah.
Where were you playing that type of music?
Sherlock's mostly.
Just Sherlock's?
And also the
Oliver's?
King's Rook.
Oh, King's Rook?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
That was when we were still upstairs.
Before they had
they
everything
opened it up, yeah.
downstairs. Yeah. Did you have any favorite rooms back then? Like you said, the King's Rook, Sherlock's, those are big places.
Those are big places, yeah.
I mean, were there any little ones that you were like, you know what, I like going, I mean, wasn't Oliver's around then or no?
Yeah, we only played there a couple times. There was a place over on 38th and Pine, Rick and Barry's.
Oh, I don't know that one.
ATV played there a lot. We liked playing in that room.
How about the Landmark? Was it still around?
The Landmark was around, yeah. That was where Bob Tome broke his Les Paul's headstock off. Oh, what a sound.
In the middle of a...
We had just finished. He set his guitar down, and it went, and I'm telling you, the sound was unbelievable because it wasn't turned down. It was just a brang. Sickening.
How do you end a gig like that?
Well, we're done.
Yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy cow.
Doc's was out at 12th and Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah.
And then they moved across the street. That was kind of weird.
Right. It was a little bigger.
Yeah, and there was still Bethwick's, and there was the Gaslight Lounge in the Liberty Plaza.
Oh, right.
Yeah, those
Goofies.
Goofies. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Goofies.
Yeah. Forget about Goofies and eventually the Beer Mug.
Yeah.
I don't know if they even had live music.
They
back.
did. They, you know, the thing about the Beer Mug is it was a horrible room, but when they expanded it, they made it even worse.
Oh, really?
I think so, yeah.
So I was only in the back room where it ended up that way. Was it originally just that front room?
It was like half of the back room.
Oh, okay.
That they expanded on the north
I know
side
what
of the
you
building.
mean.
Yeah,
Yep,
it was kind of
gotcha.
down. But
Yeah.
you know, we played a lot, but we didn't. It's just a room is a room is a room after a while.
Yeah. I didn't know.
Goofy's was always a blast, though. I always loved that.
Just because of the energy there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was a fun place to play, especially, I mean, we're kind of missing the Dogs era. How long did you play with the Dogs?
Just about a year and a half or two, because at that point it was like, now what? Because Beat the Clock was getting going.
Okay.
So I had to decide, was it going to be the Dogs or Beat the Clock?
Yeah.
So I went with Beat the Clock.
All right.
And actually, I only have one musical regret, and that's that I didn't record Psycho Daddy with the Dogs, because I was there when we wrote it. I was up in the Raven building. They had a studio up there. Tom Weber did. And all the music came together there, and it was great.
That was the second album? Or
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Psycho Daddy.
Yep. Yeah.
And that was a blast. I would have loved to have recorded that.
Yeah. Who was the bass player for that?
Bruce Hunt.
Bruce Hunt.
Yeah,
Yep.
he's terrific too.
He is. I played with him.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great guy. Yeah. Okay, so we jumped around a little bit, but I wanted to mention that because we kind of glossed over.
Sure.
The Dogs was a huge band.
Yeah.
Original band, fun band. Like you said, Goofy's was almost their home.
Right.
So Beat the Clock, you play a lot of originals. You're clearly not a country band, as the guy at the BW Saloon has informed you. So we're back to, I mean, the podcast goes to the end of the 80s, but in the early 90s is Beat the Dog, right?
Right. It's one gig.
That's it.
Yes.
Oh.
Because we had to change our name. Once again, I was friends with Dennis Cohen.
Yeah.
And whenever he needed an act for his show, he did Celebrate Erie, We Love Erie Days. It was called. People complained because we almost always, whatever I was working with, I would have the opening slot for the headliner.
Okay.
It wasn't really favoritism. What it was I didn't care if he said, hey, you got 2 songs, get off. No problem.
Right. I'll do it.
Yeah, and plus I worked with him on a lot of stuff, a lot of promo and a lot of art stuff like that.
Yeah.
So he said, listen, you guys I can't put you up there with the name Beat the Dog. This was way before PC, you know?
Yeah.
Because I can't do that. He goes, you got to come up with another name. So we're out at Eric Johnson's house having a summer party, and a friend of ours, Lonnie Wright, big Indian guy. He was one of the roadies for everybody back then. good friends with Jack and Eric.
All right.
And he's staggering around. And we came up with Lonnie Staggers and the Bluesbeaters.
Oh, that's where Lonnie Staggers
featuring
came
Otis
from.
James.
Ah, okay.
And so that's what we came up with. We said, okay, if we can't have this, we're going to have a really big, long, ridiculous name.
So that was the debut of that name.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really, I mean, was it the Bluesbeaters what they eventually became?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it was exactly.
Wow, I didn't realize that. Okay. All right. So, I mean, Lonnie Staggers.
Yeah.
I've been meaning to ask you about that when I was, and from then on, we're talking like 92.
91.
91.
Yeah.
That brings us to where you are today.
32 years later.
32 years. Yeah, there's not
With
many.
Jack and I.
Right.
You know, but we've had people come and go and come back and go. You know, it's like.
Yep.
So, but.
I just had on your most recent keyboard player,
Jimmy,
Junio,
yeah.
Right? And
fantastic.
And now you have John Carroll.
John Carroll.
Right? Fantastic. Plays in the Fabulous Leftovers.
Right.
Who else is in the band today? Obviously, Henry
Henry
right?
Tomporowski,
Right.
Henry T, and me, and Jeff Gibbons sits in with us quite a bit. He's in the band.
That's
I
right.
can't say.
Great trumpet player.
And Mike Kedzior plays with us when he can.
Sax player.
'Cause he's a
right?
busy guy too, though. He plays with a lot of people.
Yep,
so,
right. Yeah, you got the go-to guys
Yeah,
for all that.
absolutely. It's like, hey, are you available? Whoever gives me the date first, I'm available. You know.
And obviously you do the BB2 thing with Henry.
Yeah.
How much does the full band play these days?
Not as much as we used to. I was going when I was going through some papers looking at stuff. I pulled out a calendar from '96, and we played like 90 times in '96. Wow. It was like unreal.
Yeah.
But when the pandemic hit, like everybody, everything went to hell.
Right.
All the gigs that the Bluesbeaters had all got canceled.
Yep.
And and that pretty much was the death wish for a few years.
Sure.
So Jack and Jimmy had a side band they were working in.
Oh, yeah.
And they had a few gigs now and then. But Henry and I were just like, well, what are we going to do? So I said, hey, I know these guys have a duo. They're my favorite duo, Rankin and Show. I said, I'm serious. You guys were the inspiration for BB2.
Wow, yeah.
So we started working up some stuff, and then we found places we could play that weren't closed because of the pandemic, mostly distilleries, places like that.
Yeah.
So we just started working on that, and it worked. It
Yeah.
came together. It's something. I like it.
And you
I like it a
play
lot.
so much now. And you even opened at the Paul Yocklin.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah?
Paul's my cousin, so yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So growing up, did you know of the Epics and all that stuff?
I didn't know the Epics. I knew Paul.
Okay. All right.
I was a little young for that. I remember watching him on TV.
You do?
Oh, yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
But I'd never put it together. He was the Epics or, or whatever.
Right.
But I can remember going to family events up in Erie. And,
Yeah.
and he'd be there. And he was always dressed like Tom Jones. He had ruffled shirts.
Sure.
And, it was like, who's this guy? But he was always very cool.
Yeah.
And he loved my mom. They were cousins.
Okay.
He always called her Aunt Grace, but they were cousins. And he'd come down and visit. And he'd bring his parents down, and then he'd stop by. If he was going through Corey, he would always stop.
That's cool.
Yeah, real cool.
Yeah. And did you have the Younger Brothers album at the time? Or?
I did not.
No?
I don't even know if anybody does.
Yeah, right.
It's
Rare.
Very.
Yeah. It's almost as rare as the Rummagers cassette. Yeah.
Might be more rare. I don't know.
Maybe,
Like I said, there's 100 cassettes. There were 100 cassettes. I have one.
That's it. So you brought some things for me today that you're going to show me. We're going to post some of those on the episode page, which these days the website doesn't really exist. I've been posting everything on Facebook.
Yeah.
What did I not cover? Who did I miss that you're like, hey, you did some research, but not enough? And we mentioned the Famous Clowns. How long did you play with them?
About a year and a half, something like that.
Was that another one of those? I mean, it's a Rick DeBello project.
No, it wasn't. It was kind of happening when Beat the Clock started. Pretty much everything else got pushed aside in order to favor that.
Okay, right.
Because that was the thrust. Okay, we're going to do this. We had a management deal with Dennis, and we were going to do the whole thing. We were going to push hard and see what we could do, and that went nowhere.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It was experience.
Were there any aspirations, to make it big with some original stuff? Or
Oh, sure, just like everybody,
Yeah.
But the reality is what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like I was in Florida last week, and a friend of mine down there said, "Hey, I got to take you out to this blues bar. You're gonna love it." So we drive out in the middle of nowhere. I mean, it's nowhere. Pull in this little roadhouse, and there's cars everywhere. And we go in, and there's this band, and they are good. They're smoking good, really rocking and playing blues. And the guy says, like, "Yeah, it's a blues bar." He goes, "Don't come in here expecting to hear any of that Stevie Ray Vaughan or any of that fake blues. This is the real blues down here." I thought, oh, I like this guy already.
Yeah.
And my buddy was just like, "Can you believe how good these guys are? Why aren't they making it big?" And I said, "Hey, listen to me. Trust me. These guys are good." I said, "And if you go down the road 30 miles, you'll find another roadhouse, and you'll go in there, and these guys, just as good as these guys, are going to be playing there." I said, "And you go to we used to say, any Friday night, any town in America, there's a band getting ready to hit the stage,
Sure.
And the reality is there's a lot of really good musicians everywhere.
Right.
And it's,
Over the years when you were playing in all these different bands, I mean, were there some that you really liked to go out and see? Like you talked about, the early days, the Raven Band, but how about through the 80s, and were there any other ones? And when you were playing in original bands, were you a fan of other?
I had a circle of friends. Like I'd see DeBello when I could, and Pistol Whip, John and Rick, Most of the time, though, if we were working, you couldn't go see bands. That's why, I was at the Field House once to play there.
Oh, that's it?
Because every time I wanted to go, I had a gig.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's and the other time was, okay, I don't have a gig tonight. Where do I want to go? I don't want to go to a bar.
I guess that's it, too.
Yeah. So if they were good, I'd go see them.
Yeah, right. After hours, these are all 10 to 2 gigs, I imagine, back in the day.
Yeah, PP Club, though.
PP Club, yeah.
Midnight to 4. The Rook would do midnight to 4 sometimes, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy.
Yep, yeah, different time.
Yeah.
Nowadays, nothing's open that late.
No.
And you and I are both glad that we don't play those 10 to 2s anymore.
Those 4-hour gigs kill you, man.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Some places are going back to that, though.
I know. I mean, it's nice to see more venues appearing for full bands in town, you know. But, yeah, as a duo, I don't miss it.
Yeah.
6 to 9's fine.
Well, I tell you, I don't have any trouble keeping my boxes separate with the Bluesbeaters and BB2. It's 2 different formats.
Yeah, right.
And it's like...
BB2 is very eclectic.
Yeah.
You get to play whatever you want.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Do you prefer being in the duo right now?
No, not really. I mean, I prefer it because we're busy.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I like playing as I'm getting near my golden years. I want to play more.
Sure.
So I'm kind of using this as a warm up, endurance wise. See how I'm doing. I'm holding up good.
Right.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Well, that's what you started out this whole conversation saying. You're getting close to 70. You're looking to play more.
Yeah.
I've talked to a bunch of folks on this podcast that have said the same thing. And being one of the younger guys at 58, hopefully I can continue to do the same thing. And I thank you for everything you've done so far. Well, anything else I missed?
Yeah, let's see. How about an old story? Yeah. So
any old story.
First starting out playing.
Yeah.
I had the organ. I had the amp. I'm learning my songs. We're getting ready to do a show. Didn't have anything to sing through. So my mother said, well, let's go get something you can sing through. So we go back to Erie, Dick Bulling's House of Music, to buy a PA. All the real bands had Shure Vocal Masters. Well, nobody could afford that.
As tall as you, too, probably at the time.
Nobody could afford that, But he had just taken on the line EMC, which was made up in Ashtabula. I think it might have been part of a Static Mics. But anyway, EMC had a solid-state PA, so she bought this solid-state PA, 4 channels, all high impedance, Unisphere A microphones, quarter-inch jacks. She brings it back. I'm getting ready to do the gig. I had to rent it from her.
I like your mom.
Business.
Yeah,
business is business.
Right.
And then when I wasn't using it, she'd rent it to other bands in Corey, yeah.
Smart lady.
Jim Froman told me a great story. He says, he goes, I loved your mom. She was always good to us. He goes, I'd take the PA back and she'd say, how much money did you make? And he goes, oh, we didn't make very much, $20. He goes, oh, you don't have to pay me. I said, man, she must have liked you more than me because I always had to pay. When I graduated, she gave me the PA.
Did she?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so.
I have never heard a story like that where I've heard the parents are the managers. The mom made the outfits, but never mom wanted to be the PA.
Yeah.
So that's classic. Drove us to the gigs.
Yeah.
Probably
Actually,
had that.
by then, I was driving then.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We used to play at a place outside of Union City called, I think it's called Mr. B's Steakhouse. It was the Pinewood Inn.
Okay.
And I had a junior license. I had to be home by midnight. So we'd go over there, set up, play until 11:30, load the car, and drive back home. We usually, it was really sketchy though.
Yeah,
7-8 miles back to Corey.
Yeah.
So, but it was fun. Yeah, I started playing in bars when I was 16.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Wow. And I never stopped, except for a couple years here and there.
Right.
That's the other thing. A lot of these guys coming out of retirement, there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, right.
But we never stopped.
Yeah, lots of talent in this town for sure.
Oh,
man. And through the music night that I host, I meet a lot of those guys
Oh,
who
yeah.
say, I haven't played in years, and I know who they are.
Yeah.
I mean, and get up there and play.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
And then with Keith, the whole Keith connection, God bless him, because I met him even before, I was probably 15 when I met him.
right.
That's how I met Durf. That's how I met everybody in here.
Really?
Any musician I met in here was through Keith.
That's interesting. Yeah. You had a really good memory that we put on that Keith episode and everything. And a lot of folks said the same thing. It was like he was sort of the conduit to everyone.
Absolutely.
But well, I appreciate you being on today. You've been a great inspiration to me, and I appreciate you telling some good stories.
I appreciate it too.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, and special thanks to the JPT Foundation for sponsoring the podcast and for letting us use their events hall once a month for our free music night featuring the fabulous Leftovers. They're a band of longtime Erie musicians who play for an hour and then are followed by 2 hours of an open mic. All the proceeds for the event go to the Second Harvest Food Bank. The music nights are held the first Tuesday of the month from 6 to 9 at the Events Hall, which is located on West 38th Street in the plaza right next to Our Lady of Peace Church. And finally, for information on what bands and musicians are playing in Erie and the surrounding area, please check out Jack Stevenson's Two-Man Happy Hour podcast and webpage. Jack gives you all the details you need each week on who is playing where. That's Two-Man Happy Hour podcast. So, I'm Chip Shell, and I thank you again for listening to the Erie Music History Podcast.